Okay, and here we go. So what's going on, everyone? My name is Matt, and this is Demo Reel. Now, yesterday we premiered The Streets of Bottomtown, our first documentary, really. And today, joining us all the way from Florida are the creators of The Streets of Bottomtown, Azizi Rodney and Michael Walsh. Guys, how you doing today?
Hey, we're doing pretty good.
Cool. Thanks for taking the time to sit down with me.
Yeah, no problem. That's it all. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Thanks for asking. So, now everyone, the same disclaimers apply. If you haven't seen this film, leave now and come back, because we're really going to be discussing it.
It's real plot heavy, so we got
Yeah, exactly. Okay, guys, so normally I ask what is probably the most cliched question that filmmakers get asked. What is your inspiration? But I have to say, I think I could probably guess. If I had to guess, I would say you're inspired by, this town in St. Vincent. Its spirit, its sense of community, and, just, yeah, I don't even know how else to say it. Am I correct in assuming that's kind of what inspired you, quote unquote?
definitely on the right track here. I was telling Michael about the story originally. We're still sort of in the development stages of it. And I was telling him more of the background of my father and how he grew up and stuff like that. And that, I think, is also what captured Michael into this story because they have the way they live, it's always very interesting. It's
Mm-hmm.
a twist on everything because they have a different perspective.
Right.
So everything that they see is within their own bubble.
Exactly.
Sphere.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a very poor community, but to them that was just their world, and so they
Right.
never asked for more. It was just there was a certain energy that came with that community.
Yeah. And I could really see that. I liked what you did, how you kind of told the story through a recorded conversation between the two men. Azizi, was one of them your father, and the other one his friend Banksky?
Archie was my father.
Archie, yeah.
And when I was growing up, he was the guy who, out of my parents, he's the one who was always telling stories. He was always telling stories of how things were back in the day. And not just, your regular, things is how we were back in the day. We climbed up a hill, every day.
Yeah, both ways through the snow and rain, right?
It wasn't really like that. It had a message, like that same sort of message to it.
Mm-hmm.
But what he was really telling us, he was trying to pass along his memories.
Right.
The way that they lived, it changes, because the times has changed massively in his lifetime. Whereas, people in previous generations, things don't change as much. But for him, he grew up in the age of, us going to the moon and then
Right.
all this, the internet and Skype and all sorts of amazing creations. So
Exactly.
he's an immigrant, as well. So moving from St. Vincent to America was a huge transition for him.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a give and take sort of thing. He's taking on that American culture, but he's also giving up a bit of that Vincentian culture. And I wanted to still capture that.
Yeah, and it was really cool because, I'm certainly not going to pretend like I grew up in any place that was even close to Bottomtown, but the way it was told through that conversation, it made it, I don't want to say like accessible, that's maybe not the right word, but it made it feel like less foreign than you would think. There was something just familiar and universal about it. It's like, people, they're gonna reminisce. There's always some kind of magic about people reminiscing about their childhood, whether you grew up, in the suburbs of Michigan like me, or the streets of Bottomtown in St. Vincent. That's kind of what appealed to me about it.
Yeah. And a lot of what carried it, I think, is the friendships. I think that's what everybody connects
Exactly. Yeah.
We wanted to get the culture, we wanted to get all this stuff about this different place. At the end of the day, we knew the center of the story was the friendship between the two.
Oh, it certainly was. Yeah.
How that would affect them. And their chemistry really, that's generated a lot of the story.
Definitely.
How they reacted to things.
Yeah, for sure. And what was the thought process in creating this movie? What was the thought process in using that method of storytelling? Was there a thought process, or did we kind of already answer that?
It came from, it
was a class assignment to make a documentary, but also use reenactment with actors and things like that.
Got it.
And she wanted us to find someone with a story. And it could be anyone we knew. And so Azizi was telling me, like, his dad would have all these crazy stories and stuff. So we asked him, could you, or I told him, I was like, we should do, like, maybe a conversation, record it and everything. So we had the two call each other. So
Right.
what you're hearing is, like, bits and pieces of pretty much, I think it was an hour and a half long phone conversation. That we
Really? Oh, my God.
Picked our favorite parts. I think at some point it was, like, 10 minutes. We kept cutting it down.
Right.
If you hear the original conversation, you can hear that, they have so much more to tell. There's so many little details. In there.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah, there's so many other little details that I wish I could have put in. That would probably be
more time to shoot more stuff.
Exactly. And how did you decide what to put in, what to take out? Or maybe that's just a massively big question.
That's a good question, actually.
It came from a mix of what we had time to shoot, because there were a lot of things we had written down, we just didn't have the time. It also came from just picking out our favorite parts. Sometimes they kind of ramble about something.
Right.
So like the parts that really capture the culture and really capture the friendships are the parts we focused on.
Cool.
As he said, because of they're our favorite parts. We come from this American culture, so it's our favorite part. But luckily, I'm still sort of like kind of a quasi sort of in between person. It was both of our favorite parts, and it would be accessible to all the audience who sees. This is what we know. And there's parts of their culture that my dad has talked about that just wouldn't really relate. But the things that you all saw, that's stuff that we thought this is what people would like. This is what
totally.
Viewers would see this as, I understand this. So it was really interesting, but it was tough as well, because as I said, they have a lot of great stories.
Yeah, for sure.
You're trying to pick apart these stories, trying to meld together something and keep that friendship that they had. But it was fun though. It was actually a lot of fun.
Right.
Probably one of the most exciting parts, or really one of the most entertaining parts for us, was going through what they're actually saying and keeping all the lingo.
Right.
A very special way of talking.
Yeah, of course.
That kind of helped with the storytelling and the whole overall feel of it.
Yeah, it definitely did.
These words growing up with his dad and his dad's friends, he knew what they were saying. Listening to this conversation, I'm like, what does line mean? Like, what are these saying?
Right. It was funny because when I recorded the original conversation, I sent it to Michael, but he didn't really quite understand it.
It was gibberish to me.
I sent him a subtitle for it. I made a whole subtitle.
Right.
We couldn't start the storyboard without the subtitles.
Oh, that's great. Oh, man. But now you kind of mentioned what your favorite parts of working on this. What were some of the challenges that you faced when putting this film together?
Personally, being in college, we have like 4 other classes we got to do, so there's
right.
projects to do. So just allocating the time for this was
for sure.
And then like trying to find actors, and those actors have class, and so you have to decide.
Definitely.
As time when we shoot.
Yeah, I think another difficult part was there are some gaps. Like when you're watching the film, you're getting an overall feel of things. But obviously, when you're getting that overall sense of how they react and how they move, and things are very casual. And
right.
The way that you do that is you have specific examples that you just give a lot of. So in the film itself, they have people throwing bricks, just doing random stupid things.
Yeah.
It's how they had fun.
Right.
Obviously, neither Michael or I grew up in that town, so we had to really, really think about those things that would still give that moment, that still give that sort of sense.
Yeah.
So that's very challenging, even though when you watch it, it kind of goes past one ear and out the other. It was very challenging to really get down to those details. Is that kind of what made the difference,
Yeah, I can totally understand that. And one thing, you mentioned this is a school project. Can I ask what grade you got on it?
Oh, we got an A. Yeah, we got an A.
Well, that's good. It's what I would have given you if I was the teacher.
Thank you. No, it was like a 95. So it was pretty good. We got some points off because it's supposed to be when they were kids, so it's supposed to be 20, 30 years in the past, but you can see modern day cars and things like that.
Right.
It took me out of it. We're like,
Oh man. Well, that sounds awesome, guys. So my next question is, what's next for you guys as filmmakers? What do what's your next step?
That's a good question. I know for Azizi's graduating this semester, whereas I still have another year. So
Got it.
it's a lot of focusing on my major and getting out and finding that first internship.
And I don't think this was mentioned. What film school? What school are you at?
FSU.
FSU. Got it.
So, and for me, I graduated this semester, and I'm looking to move up to New York and do some work up there.
Right.
I actually originally wasn't interested in documentary work until I had to do this class, and you learn more about this, and you talk to people like Michael who are very much into this genre, and it got me more into it. It got me more charged up about this whole subject.
Right.
And it was great because I had a story I could tell. My dad had a story I could tell, so it was interesting because I had an opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
And then you had people like Michael who know the genre very well and how to tell it well.
For sure.
It was interesting in those sort of senses. So I think for me, my next step would be to explore more options into the documentary world. I think it's a very interesting genre to explore.
Yeah, it definitely is.
In the realest way possible, and you can also kind of mix it up a little bit, but it's very real. And I was always interested in narrative work, but I think I'm going to be kind of bouncing between documentary and narrative stuff. But I know Michael, you're still interested in narrative stuff.
Oh, for sure. So the fun about this class was it was a mix of narrative and documentary, finding the way to kind of mix the two together.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. Really.
Yeah, it was a really interesting experience. And, it was cool because we got to show other people a new experience and a new way of life.
Got it.
So it was. I'm glad that someone else besides us. We've been staring at the film for hours at a time. A couple of hours just sitting down in the booth.
Oh man, we were there till I think about 3 a.m.
Yeah. Oh my God! Wow.
When it was due.
Yeah, but it's really refreshing to have someone that who's, often in a much different world and doing much different things to get the same sort of like mental space that we were in when we were watching that film, when we were making it.
Well, thank you. That means a lot. That means a lot here, coming from you guys. It's, and I've said this before, but this is what I wanted to do with Demo Reel, like help people like you get their name out there, have their work be seen.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, man. That's such a cool thing to do, to be a part of.
Hey.
You mentioned this was your first documentary on Demo Reel, but I feel like there's some other young filmmakers who have good stories as well.
Oh yeah, totally.
Hopefully they reach out, or you guys can connect and we can get more of that going.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely be looking into that, but you're right. I've definitely been happy with everything that's been going on Demo Reel so far. So, all right. Well, what were you gonna say?
I was just a final thought. I was just thinking, as I said, there's a lot of younger filmmakers who still, a lot of them still want to do narrative stuff, but you find those who push into the documentary world have a more sober sort of like outlook on life.
Oh yeah, I've definitely noticed that.
Yeah, so when they tell their stories, it has a raw sense to it.
For sure, yeah, and that's what always appealed to me about like independent documentaries, really.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's from a completely different perspective, so it's a great thing to see because you've never been there, you've never met any of those people.
Of course not, yeah.
It's a whole new world in a way. Still make it connect to you. They still make that connection between you and them, and that's really what matters as well. And
yeah, for sure.
Making this biopic of someone else, you're making this a connection between you in your place and us in our place.
Right. And that's the beauty of documentaries, really. I mean, a lot of films, you want them to take you to a different world, but with documentaries, get into another world, but it's like, oh wait, this actually exists. I could go there, like theoretically, And that's what makes them so like powerful and emotional. I love it. Oh man. Well, anyways, guys, I think that's about all the time we have. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me all the way from FSU.
It's like the opportunity.
Thank you for talking with us.
My pleasure. And you all, thank you for tuning in and watching our conversation. Hope you liked it. Be sure to watch out for Azizi Rodney and Michael Walsh, because unless I miss my guess, I think they're going to take the film world by storm, and you are not going to want to miss that. So stay tuned.
Challenge accepted.